All right, Integrated Math 3 students, Happy New Year. We're starting things off a little bit different for my face-to-face learners just because we're all virtual now. But we are we're going to continue with exponents, exponential equations, and we're going to get into a new type of function this unit. I've already got the new delta math up. It's not completely finished being constructed just yet. As usual, that's sort of how it goes because I'm still finding questions that I want to put on there that are good quality for you guys. But other than that, you should be ready to start working on that. Today's lesson is going to be pretty short because some of it is going to be review from iMath 2. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what I have on my screen here is a link to these laws of exponents. Now, I'm pretty certain that this is something that you saw last year in iMath 2. I feel very confident in that. If not, you have the rules here. I'm not really going to be doing much instruction over these rules. I'm going to pause the video and share this link that you can go to and refer to. You may want to save this link. I'll put it also in an email just so you have it somewhere that you can click on it. But this shows all the different laws of exponents, if they're being multiplied and such. And we're going to be referring to this as I do some examples today, and I'm going to show some of the delta math. But really what you guys need to do is just get in there and just practice these skills. This is more, today's lesson is more about the skills of it, and we're not really talking much about any new math concepts. But through practicing these skills, you should be in good shape. Okay, let's talk about the delta math. We know that this is going to be over exponent rules, so it's called exponentials and logarithms. We'll have to introduce a logarithm. That'll probably be a lesson later, and maybe a few lessons down the road. Maybe the next one. I think so. Yeah. But so far, these are the skills that I have. Delta math now gives me a time estimate, how much time it would take you to do what I have on here. It says 48 minutes. Right now, the due date is going to be, where do I have that? The 15th. Today is the 5th that I'm recording this. So you've got 2 weeks. This might get pushed back. We'll see. But definitely start chipping away at this. Each section has 5 questions in it so far to start. Then there's this timed one. We'll talk about that one. I'm very curious. This may take a couple attempts, but I like this a lot because there will absolutely be no way that you can do this other than, in your head quickly. So I'll do one of those to show you what it'll look like, and we'll see if I can get it under 100 seconds. I don't think I've tried it yet. So I've done a couple questions, but I'll do sort of like a play. We'll watch me do it, and you can see what it's going to look like. And then I put some questions that you're going to really want to look at for practicing. We'll look at number 1 and talk through that, simplify it. But let's look through some of these exponent rules. So here we have the problem that you'll see, and what we're trying to do is simplify this. So we're using all of these exponent rules to help us out. So let me go ahead and we're going to draw on this and just talk about how you should be thinking through this. Well, I see this right here, and that's sort of making me think, okay, well, let's look at our list here of these rules. And as I look at this right here and compare it to this list here, it looks a lot like this second rule. It says if I have a base raised to an exponent with an exponent outside, I multiply those exponents. Here's the example: 2 to the 3rd to the 4th, you multiply those and you get to the 12th. So I know that this is something that I can do here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this change. It's going to be 3. I'm going to keep those there. Actually, you know what? We know that we can go ahead and divide those, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. That's a step that we can take. And really, for you guys, there's no right way to do this per se. You can do this however you want as long as you get it simplified all the way down using these rules. So I have a to the 2nd on top. Down here, this is going to be a to the 2 to the 4th. Remember, the rule said we multiply this, so it's a to the 8th. Okay, so that's where we land. Hopefully this is a review for you guys. You should remember doing this last year. We go back to our rules. Here we have a fraction with these. So we look at the rules. Here's this rule here, the second to last one. Base to a power, base to a power. If they're the same base, we can subtract the exponents, the top one minus the bottom one. So here's the example, 5 over 2 to the 5th over 2 to the 3rd. You can subtract the exponents. That gets us, we're going to have 2 over 8. So that's going to be 1 over 6. And actually, I am, some of you might be wondering, well, wouldn't this be let me go ahead and write this, a to the -6, because it would be 2 over 8, which is, you subtract them, it gets you -6, and it would. So actually, I'm going to go back on what I said about this one, because it's missing that negative exponent rule, which is actually very important. So I found this chart here. There's tons of charts. If you feel like you want to find your own or look up something that's missing, just type in exponent rules. You'll find tons of stuff in Google. But here's this property here, negative exponent, down at the bottom. That's the one that we needed to use for this. When we get that negative exponent, it goes to the bottom, or whichever side has the higher power, that's the side that the subtraction, the positive exponent is going to go to. So I'm going to put 1 over a to the 6th in here for my answer. So let's go back to Delta Math. 1 divided by a, raise it to the 6th power, submit. There you go. And it shows the steps. You obviously have help videos you can watch, but there's all kinds of questions on here. It looks like a lot of them are going to be about the same. This is level 1, so there's not a ton of variation in these. You have 5 problems to do. Let's look at the second one. Now we get these negative exponents that pop up. So let's talk about how we could go through this. What I would usually recommend is simplify the numerator and the denominator first. So me looking at this, this makes me want to put, I want to have that power on the outside. So let's go back to our rules. Look at those. This is that power rule. Here's where a lot of students make mistakes. A lot of students would put this. So if we multiply that power in there, we get q to the -9. And this top part, what I've written, is not correct. So we have to remember that each exponent inside of here gets multiplied by that 3. There's a 1 right here, right? That's -3 to the 1. And so we need to make sure that that gets multiplied to the 3rd power. Okay, or we need to make sure that that gets raised to that 3rd power. Also, negatives can be tricky on this. This technically counts as a -1 times 3. So that's also something that can be kind of tricky. This is -1 times 3 times q, which is then raised to the 3rd. So that 3 has to go to all of that. Now, honestly, that won't really matter. If we put these in parentheses right here, it doesn't really matter. It's going to end up being a positive number anyway. But there's a lot to consider with these exponents and this power property, this power rule that we're seeing right here, power rule. So we got to be careful with that. So let's go ahead and rewrite this up the most proper way. So it's going to be -3 to the 3rd. And then it's going to be q to the -9. I don't really need this parentheses, so I'm going to get rid of it actually. There we go. Now the bottom is sort of, there's nothing I can do to it, so we're going to go ahead and place this down, q -6. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to try to simplify this as much as we can using the different rules. First thing, I'm going to raise this -3 to the 3rd. And that -3 to the 3rd, if you raise it to that power, you can use your calculator to do that. I'll just do this, -3, put in parentheses, -3 to the 3rd. What happened there? I don't know. Parentheses, -3 to the 3rd. There we are. -27, so that's -27. We'll keep this q to the -9. And then -6q to the -6. Now these do not, actually they do have a common denominator, which is 3, and they're also negative. So we know that this should simplify to the negatives go away, so those will cancel out. And then we divide out a GCF of 3. So divide away 3 from each, we get 9 over 2. So that's the GCF. And then we're able to subtract these exponents. We're still using this, let's see, the quotient rule, which this doesn't show as a fraction right here, but it is a fraction. You subtract the exponents, the top minus the bottom. So it's negative 9 minus negative 6. So it's x to the negative 3. And then we have to use one more rule, which is whenever we have that negative exponent, we're switching whatever side it's on. If it were negative on the bottom, we'd switch it to the top. If it were negative on top, we switch it to the bottom. So hopefully we can run into a couple of those examples as we're working through this today. So let's do 9 over 2x to the third. This should be the final form of this. What you're going to be looking for in your test that's going to be coming up is you're looking for any of these forms to be correct. So you'll have questions where it says pick 2 forms that would be equal, because there's a lot of steps, and I need to move my camera. There's a lot of steps in these, and the questions that you're going to be asked are going to be pick one of the equivalent forms. So I'll show one of those in a second, but let's go ahead and submit this answer on Delta Math. So it's 9 divided by 2x to the third. Submit. I got it wrong. What did I do? Oh, it's q. So I got it right technically, but make sure you're using the right variable. It's not x. It's q. I switched from q's to x's here. Whoops. So just be careful with Delta Math. If it were on a test, you would probably know, because it would say q, it wouldn't say x. But if it's free response, you gotta be careful. All right, so we got that. Now level 3 is just a little bit step up from that. You're just using these rules. Obviously, you get tons of practice with this, and that's the whole goal here, is to practice these. I expect you to make mistakes. If you fly through this in 20 seconds, that is very concerning to me. If you do all of these very quickly, that is a sign that you did not take your time to work these out. Okay, I do expect people to miss these questions. That is something that I expect. I do expect it to take longer than 20 seconds, if you understand what I'm getting at here. Negative exponents, you get some more practice with those. These are just saying select the equivalent expression. This is going to be more true to what your test would look like. However, your test would say pick 2. Here we're just picking 1. So these, you can actually do a lot of these in your head. Remember, negative exponents, whenever you see those, that means that they are going to the other side of the fraction. So this would be x to the 7th times x to the 3rd times y to the 3rd times y to the 8th. We no longer have a fraction. If we did have a fraction, it'd be over 1 now, but we don't anymore because we move them all up. Then we just combine the exponents. It's 7 plus 3, 3 plus 8. So it's x to the 10th, y to the 11th. So it would be this one here. So that's all you're doing on these, is just looking at those and picking the right one. I may have to bump up the question numbers on that just because those are pretty quick. Let's do 8 of those. Yeah, and it didn't even add that much time. It added 3 minutes. So it expects you to take a minute per problem. So the next part of this is timed exponents, exponent rules. So you're going to be, this is one where I know for sure you're not going to be able to sit there and complete it using any additional help. You have to be quick and you have to know these rules. So it's important that you go back, that you're practicing genuinely with the others to make sure you've got these. So I'm going to try to do this. This is sort of a teacher challenge. And then I'm going to work one more section. This video will be done, but we'll see if I can beat this in 100 seconds. I'll talk out loud as I'm going through this, sort of my thought process. And in my head, I've sort of got these rules. I've worked with them so much that I've got them down, and that's almost kind of what you guys need to be able to do, is have these rules sort of, you've practiced so much that you can remember what rules do what. And these are going to be negative exponents. So I'm going to be looking for a lot of shifting, up and down across the fraction. So let's start this. Here we go. Oh my. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and combine these. That gets me y to the negative 7. I'm going to move it to the bottom. So that's y to the 7 is on the bottom for sure. So it's one of these. I combine the exponents here through addition because I'm multiplying. So it's this one. All right, exponents. Let's move that one up, move that one up. We get y goes away. This is 5, so it's x to the 5th, y to the 6th, x to the, man, I'm having a tough time here with this one. So I'm already 37 seconds in. So this is going to be very helpful to practice. So this is actually y to the 6 is on top for sure. Let's put this on the bottom. Okay, so it is this one. Let's see. This is negative 10. Then we get 8 on top, so it's that one. That's 0 on the bottom, so that's 1. We need 2. Okay. X squared over x to the 8th, so it's 1 over x to the 6th. I'm halfway there, and I'm running out of time because I'm talking, right? This is x to the 8th up top. This becomes x to the 5th on top because I move it up, combine it with that one. So that's x to the 3rd. X to the 8th, subtract those, you get x to the 5th on top. It's y to the 4th on the bottom. 2 more. Oh, can I do it? I don't know if I can. Negative 1, y is on the bottom. It's this one. 1 more. I don't know if I can do it. X to the 5th on the bottom. That one. Oh, snap. Look at that. I almost had it. But that's me talking. So you really want to focus on moving these parts. That I do expect that you guys will be able to do this. It's just going to take practice. Okay? So try to think through. And does it show... Does it show the questions that you missed? So here it shows how you should have thought through that problem. Maybe it shows you after. If you miss a problem, I think it'll show you what you should have done. So on this question, my thought process was, I actually should have done this. I should have combined these. So that'd be negative 9 on top, move it to the bottom, and then combine it. So let me show you sort of what I mean by that. So this would be, in my head, I would have said, okay, x to the negative 9, because I can add those exponents per this property right here, the product rule, add them, right? And then on the bottom, I have x to the 4th. The negative exponent means move it to the bottom, so I get 1 over x to the 4th times x to the 9th. Okay, and then we're going to do 1 over x to the 13th. So that's how they got that. Okay, so we've got, you see how that's going to play out. I definitely expect that to take a couple tries as well. Obviously, there's no computer software that you can use really to help you do this because it's timed. If you don't get 100 seconds, you don't get the credit for it. Okay, all right. We're 18 and a half minutes in. Let's talk about the last part that's very important here. So we have these test practice problems. So this is what a test question is going to look like. And actually on the EOC, this is where we're sort of drawing this example from. Here it says select an expression, so that implies you're going to pick one of these down here. On your test, you could easily have select all that apply. So you have to make sure, you have to go through and check all of those. So on here, you're looking for expressions that could work. Okay, so and then you have one more problem down here, which is I would say is pretty difficult. There's a lot of negatives going on, and these are pretty wild answers. So you're just looking to confirm which one actually works. Now I gave you 3 attempts on each of these. I don't want you just clicking and trying to guess them right, because there are, I think, 6 options each for these problems. Take your time. If you get confused, reach out to me and I can make a video to help you. But let's talk about this question here. What would I want to do? I'll even work most of this. You would start looking at each one and you're trying to see if there's any way that you can use these rules to make that happen. So we haven't talked about power of a fraction rule yet, But there is a rule that says, okay, if I have a power out here to a fraction, I'm going to raise both numbers to the fraction. So an equivalent form of this would be 2 to the third over 3 to the third to the 2x. This would be equivalent form, which we can easily change that to its actual number value, which is 8 over 27 to the 2x. All right, so we can make all of these equivalent forms. Now there's more ways we could do this. We can actually use the power rule. Use the power rule here to raise this, take these exponents, we multiply them, right? And that would get us 2 to the third over 6x. Or 2 to the third raised to the 6x. Is that an option on here? It doesn't look like it. So that's how you want to be thinking through these. What all rules could be applied in each scenario. So that's going to be sort of the ending of this. If you have any questions about these rules, let me know. If you have plenty of practice. Obviously, if you're not getting it in 5 problems, work more problems. That's the beauty of Delta Math. It gives you plenty of practice. So we're going to end this here and get to work on these problems.